Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
Okay, welcome to episode 113 of the Talk and Power podcast. I'm joined with co-host Todd Brinkworth, Simon Gonzo Travellini over there. I'm host Nick DeChembry. And on the line, we have with us a really special guest of an international flavour, this one.
Yes, we do.
Carl Cox. Carl, thanks for joining us.
All right, I love that. International. I've been here long enough now. I'm a token bloody Aussie.
Hey, Carl, look, we really appreciate your time on coming on the podcast tonight. It really does give us great pleasure to have you on here tonight. And look, I mean, I just want to, we need to qualify your credentials here. World famous DJ, motorsport identity, event promoter, drag racer. I think you were a scaffolder at one stage as well. Tell us, have we missed something along the way?
Oh, yeah. Green fingers are gardening. Absolutely. I was also, I used to like, but when the new cars come in, you do this thing called a PDI inspections on new cars. And so when they rolled off the truck, I was the one that tested the brakes. So I don't know how I got that job, but anyway, it was very dangerous at that particular
time. Did any of them ever not work?
Yeah, they came off, and I'm like, oh, just like no pedal was 40 next, you have to kind of check them for like the horn did and the indicators that they worked, and the brakes was like, oh man, really? You got to be that was a bit of a dangerous job, but I've also I used to be an electrical engineer, and I used to build my own speakers and EQs and mixers and all that sort of stuff for music systems and motor mechanics. I was in college for motor mechanics as well. So yeah, I do get my hands dirty now and again. Well, not so much now, but back in the day, yeah, of course.
No, it's quite an incredible, career you've had, and I mean, we need to talk about a lot of the things that you've done over the years. I just want to take a step back to your younger years. Growing up in the UK, maybe this has been very stereotypical, but I would have thought that you would have grown up working on Jensen's and other cool UK brands. How did the drag racing bug bite way back then?
Yeah, all those British Leyland cars and all those foreign cars outside of Ford, Ford was the only thing I worked on because Ford's fit. So if you had a wheel nut come off a Ford Angular, that wheel nut would fit on a Capri. So that was or the gearbox or the diff or anything would intertwine itself. All those other flashy cars and that. Oh no, it was too much like hard work. When I was at college, they made me work on a Triumph Herald, and just getting the bloody starter motor out of that thing was an absolute headache and nightmare. Is the fact that I never had a Triumph Herald at all. It was a pain. A lot of those other cars to work on, so I never fancied myself on any of those cars at all, apart from Ford. So that's how it all became about. As for drag racing, near where I lived in South London, a place called Carshalton, in the place Sutton, Surrey, which is kind of the suburbs of London. I used to do a lot of street racing around the area. And the guys we used to race against was called the Harrises. And this Harris family, they made nothing but, they had nothing but Ford cars that they used to drag race back in the day. And they used to drive Zephyr Zodiacs, Mark I, and Zephyr Consols. And they used to put Mustang 289 V8 engines in them and then put like 100 shot of nitrous in them. And they used to try and get a lot of weight out of them because those old cars are very heavy. But they used to run, back in the 80s, 11.4 seconds,
that's quick for a straight.
At that time, it was considered very, very fast. And if a car did a 10-second pass, you're like, behold, my old Capri, what I used to have back in the day, I think I did it in something like 18 seconds at 83 miles an hour. So I was like, yes, it held together. It didn't break. It didn't break down or anything. Obviously, things got a bit quicker after. You just need money. And in the 80s, we didn't really have money. So we used to go every month to a thing called Run What You Brung. So whatever you took, you just took it down the strip. So I used to have this little 850 Mini, and 23 or 24 seconds, 72 mile an hour. That was me in the Mini. Whoa, kind of looking at my watch, to get to the end. I'm like, oh, here we go. It was a lot of fun. That's how I started. But back in the day, Santa Pod Raceway in Northamptonshire, up the M1 leading towards north, was the consummate drag strip, and that drag strip is still heralded as one of the best drag strips in Europe.
I believe it still holds the world record for the rocket car from memory.
I believe it does, yeah, because they used to have the rocket car racing not alongside the top fuelers, but it was kind of a thing to have two go down the line, and that was the spectacle of that was incredible when you was in the stands watching that happen. And I think so that you're right. It probably is. England was probably the only mad enough place to run those bloody things. They are incredible to see.
It sounds strange saying that because, we always think of America as the capital of that. But, you guys just allowed the craziest things to happen over there. So.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And I remember one year going down there in the 80s where we had Don Gullitz come over, Shirley Madowney, and all the big stars, all the top fuel big stars come down and race their cars and the funny cars and everything. And I was in. Straight away I was in. I used to just go home and be inspired with my own cars to just basically just go to quarter mile or street racing at the time. So I've always done it, but I never really exercised the fact like I'm doing now as a part of my hobby that I like to do. When I first got back into drag racing here in Australia, it was basically 2011 or 2012, where I bought a Holden 1971 Prem, and it was actually a car which I bought on Unique Cars from a guy called Greg Leach, and it had a 186 in it, and it was basically race prepped for Targa Tasmania at the time. And so it was like a build that they had on Unique Cars or where it came from. Probably some old granny, and they dragged it out of the garage or something, and they used this car as a build that you followed. You can follow it still today to see where it ended up. But I came across it, and I thought, while I'm leaving here in Australia, I need an Australian muscle car. I need something that I can have an affinity with that would be very happy. And now, unfortunately, it wasn't a Ford. But I did like this car. I liked how it looked, and I liked the color, and it had a tip to the Monaro, the bonnet and scoops, and the seats inside and everything. So it wasn't quite a Monaro. I couldn't afford one of them, and I still can't afford one of them now. So my Prem is the next thing to it. But I paid about, I think, something like $32,000 for it. So when I bought it back to my mates, it was 4 on the floor. It had straight six, triple carbies on it, and I'm like, yeah, Australian muscle car. Check this out, boys. And when I rolled it round the corner into the farm, they all looked at me, shook their head, just went, "How much you pay for that piece?" And they were like, 32 grand. Oh, you're being ripped off. Oh, what's going on here? I'm like, is it rusty? I said, no, it's not rusty. It's all. I was like, oh, what have I bought? I bought a proper lemon. Anyway, they ripped that bloody thing out. They 186, and I went away for a year, came back, and it had a 440 engine. 440 small block, naturally aspirated. It was a Dandy Engines and a Profab kind of collaboration on 600 horsepower. I never had 600 horsepower in my life. Back in the day was like, I think something like 220 horsepower V6. So I have only 600 horsepower, 2-speed, and I went down to Heathcote once we had it all done, and scared the bejesus out of myself. So
was that the car or the track,
or a bit of both?
But what was really funny was that I haven't been on the track for like many, many, many years. And I've got this car now, and here I am. The boys were like, "Oh, you talk about what you used to do." But so here we are at Heathcote, and it's 2012. I'm in this bloody monster, and I was staging up against the lights, and I kind of went too forward to the lights, and I put a bulb on, and then I put the other one on, and then I went too far forward. I went back, and I went forward. I went, you know what? I've had enough of this. How does this go? Pow! I just went for gold. I'm like, whoa, second again, whoa, yes. And I got down. It was a really shitty time, something like 12 something or whatever. And I came back, and I went, what was that all about? I said, I just needed to go down. I just want to do it, It was funny. I mean, I've obviously shaped up a little bit since then, but it was funny on my first time with that car. That car now has a has another configuration. I put a 98 single turbo in it. It's over 2,000 horsepower. It's getting basically all set up for drag challenge, hopefully for next year. So that you'll see that car come back out.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just I'll hold you there. Like you just mentioned Dandy Engines and Profab. Tell us how you got in contact with Frank Marchese of Dandy Engines and also Joe Gorsi of Profab. Yeah,
well, what happened was friends of mine who are now crew chief, Rod Taylor and others, you know, he had a really nice Mustang which I bought from him actually, 1965 coupe. And beautifully black, and the wheels, you know, having the Magnum wheels, but a bit oversized. And I said, this is not normal, this car. And he brings it round, and it's like all fire breathing. On the outside, it's beautiful, inside lovely, but underneath was like incredible. So it was a Dandy Engines race tune car. Naturally aspirated, 10, I think it was like 1102. It kept doing 122, 124 miles an hour. Couldn't get anything faster out of it. That was about it. But I thought for me, that was fine. I bought that car from Rod, and he's moved on to another Mustang now. But I went down to Calder Park for the first time in Melbourne, and then saw these kind of like, you know, these Fords going down, XWs, doing 8 seconds. I've never seen a full body 4-door car, you know, that you go and get groceries in, or a taxi or whatever, running 8 seconds, and they sound really quiet. I'm like, sure. I'm like, what's going on here? So met Frankie, and he said, yeah, we do these, you know, turbo configurations, and that was it. I was hooked. I was in straight from the off. So and naturally aspirated, and then the Capri you see behind me was the first Coxie project, and they said, well, you know, I know you've been running 10s, you want to go a bit quicker, so they're going to build me a 6-second car at over 200 miles an hour, and I was like, you guys are mad. Leave me alone. You guys are crazy. And eventually, I mean, this was on big tire to begin with. I've never been on big tire before in my life, but you know, at the time it was built for APSA rounds, and then eventually APSA finished. So I went onto the radial circuit and on 315 tire, and I've been going between 315 and 275, which I had this car out on the weekend, which actually ended up being top qualifier this weekend. So, you know, I was like, come on, Coxie, you can do it. You know, but I didn't win all my rounds, unfortunately, but I did just peel off 6.8 at over 200 miles an hour.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, 686 at 206 mile an hour. 442 to the half track.
Yeah, unbelievable. And the track really was like a knife edge. It was, you know, if we gave one more bit more boost, and then it would just blow the tires. So, you know, I blew the tires on the first qualifying. It hooked up on the second qualifying, which made it the top qualifying car. And then after that, 3 more rounds, and I just thought, well, you know, if it blows the tires, I'm done, which it did. And then the second race, it hooked up and went down. And the third race, it blew the tires. But then I got a bit of grip, and I saw Rob Tarabay, he blew the tires, and he went. And I thought, oh shit, he's gone. I'm like, I'm going. So they both went down. And I can't believe it, right? He went across the line at 191 miles an hour. You know, so he blew the tires and still picked up that much speed from 330. I'm thinking, damn. So he must have smashed it, because I'm telling you, he did not want to lose to that race to me. He just didn't. And I'm like, I normally abort the, you know, when they blow the tires, I normally abort and go, okay, I'm done. I'm like, no, I'm not having that. And my car hooked up and went. So yeah, it was an interesting final race for me on the weekend, but it's great. I loved it. And I kept it off the walls. The engine's great. You know, we won an award for the top qualifier, which makes the car really competitive in that field. So I'm really pleased on the weekend.
That was on a 275, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Yeah, that is awesome.
I mean, we can see you have a passion for drag racing, Carl. This is awesome. But some of us know you as a DJ as well.
Yeah, I do a little bit of that.
Some of us do.
Well, I do now.
You've spun the odd turntable here and there.
A good friend of ours, you know, calls it spinning the 1s and 2s, and then I had to fill in Nick and Simon. In your case, it's the 1, 2s and 3s. You know.
Yeah.
But DJing, like, your style was sort of or techno, I'm guessing. it would be one of your styles. And
well, let me put it into perspective. I basically was born in the 60s. My mum and dad, coming from Barbados, they always had music and parties at home in Barbados. And I basically, when they moved to the UK and they had parties at home, their music was from the late 60s into the 70s. So I kind of grew up with music that you would hear from bands. Basically, there wasn't no individual kind of singer or if it was like Diana Ross, it'd be Diana Ross and the Supremes. You know what I mean? If it was Hank Marvin, it'd be Hank Marvin and the Shadows, and or Cliff Richard and the Shadows, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I kind of grew up with, and so I'm very eclectic in my music. And Elvis Presley, of course, and Dwayne Eddy. I could go on and on about music. I have over 150,000 pieces of vinyl in my garage here of music that I collated from my dad's collection to present day from 1968. So you can imagine, yes, techno is something that I got into in the 80s, 88, 89, and I'm very well known for that. But I actually did weddings for like at least 10 years. So you couldn't play technos at weddings. I had to play the Birdie song. I had to play a few things. Don't tell anyone though, okay? It's just between us. Okay, what I used to play. But I was a young guy, learning the craft of DJing, and weddings was one way of doing it, and getting a bit of money to do it. And I enjoyed it. It's a challenge to play top 40 hit records or whatever the wedding theme was. Sometimes it'd be a rock and roll wedding. Sometimes it would be like a Jewish wedding, whatever, or heavy metal. I had it all, and I've still got it all my records in that vein. But I had to basically steer towards my sound. So my sound in the late 70s into the 80s was funk, was soul music, R&B, Latin jazz. And then, of course, I was obviously grew up in the rock and roll, a rockabilly sound, and always because obviously American Graffiti, that soundtrack is all about the cars and the music, and I love all of that sound of the 50s. So yeah, I have a very, very massive eclectic piece of music that I love, that I am kind of unknown for, but I grew up with all of that music. So techno is something, or the house music and techno music is of which I perfected in my sound, and which I'm very well known for. But yeah, if you go back in the day, it was all about bands and artists.
Yeah, most certainly. I don't know a lot about DJing, but the one thing I do know is that Ibiza, I think that's how you say it in Spain. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. Yeah.
I thought that's how you say it.
That's pretty good.
Sorry, we're being nice to Nick here.
That's pretty good.
But I know that's kind of not the mecca of DJing, but I would say one of.
I think it's the mecca of partying.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But tell us, you did 15 years there, and tell us about space there. What you did there.
Right. Well, first and foremost, I was always DJing, and I was always in the UK. And the thought of going abroad, trying to speak another language was kind of like it's never going to happen. But you're right. This island had some of the best clubs and the sound systems that you would ever hear nowhere else in the world apart from this tiny little island. And I was very curious about that. So I went over in the early days of before Ibiza got known for what it is today as a party island. I went over there to see, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and at that particular time it's called Coup, which held over 10,000 people, and I used to play there in the last 5 years at this club, which is amazing. It had a massive swimming pool in the middle of the dance floor, and it had all these trees and all sorts of. It was amazing. It was indoor outdoor club, and Coup was the place. But then you had another club called Pasha, another club called Amnesia, and another club called Space, which started in 1989. Now I was going there just as Space was starting, and it was the only after our club you can go to on the island. It would start at 7:00 in the morning on Sunday. So even though you've been out on the weekend, on the Saturday, if you really wanted to carry on, then Space was the place. And I was curious about that. So I went there. And basically I used to go to one club, go back to the hotel, wash and brush up, have a shave, and then goes to stand in the queue. They go back inside the club to continue on and into the daytime, into the night, and space was the club. And I just loved that it had this terrace outside, which was great, and a club inside called a discoteca. And I really wanted to have the opportunity to play that club if they knew how I would play and DJ, of which they found out in the end of the day by what I could do, and they took me under their wing as a resident DJ since then. So I've actually been playing in that club for nearly over 20 years, but was given a residency, which I was basically there for 16 years. And the only reason why it stopped because the original owner of the land took back the lease of the land, which took back the club from Pepe, who used to run that club for 27 years straight. So that's the only reason why I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm just kind of free to do whatever I want to do. But I think that was probably one of the longest residencies that any DJ has done in the world, for 16 consecutive years straight. And I'm kind of very proud of that. The club was the number one club in the world. There was no other club like it. So whatever I did on my Tuesday nights that I did there was a big part of their success about that. So it was a big part of me, I mean, I actually did cry, when I played the last record there. I thought, right now, who's going to pay me? Because I've got drag racing to do. I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? I can't afford the drag races. We're going to space anymore. Oh man, it was tough to leave that place because it wasn't finished. It still had plenty of years left in that club. But as I say, things move on, and here we are, and moved on into a pandemic. So
yeah. So you guys are working to revive the space name, yes?
Well, after 2 years afterwards, 2018, we tried to do it. And what they should have done really is straight away have a venue or a place to go to, which they didn't do. They just thought that they could basically just come in with the space name and do whatever they wanted on the island. But there was no space for another club on that island. It really, the actual government don't want another club on the island. They're fighting against it because there's already enough clubs on the island. So
time to get a boat, Carl. It's time to get a boat.
Well, absolutely, 100%. I mean, just to relax and enjoy the island for what it is from the outside point of view. If I wanted to do it looking out, but having a boat on the island is not a bad idea at all.
Well, you talked about COVID or pandemic. How do you manage then doing your job or touring, like in even in Australia? How difficult has that been to manage?
Well, the thing is, since the pandemic, I've only probably played here since I've been here now, it's been a year and a half, 6 events.
Yeah, okay.
So that's not a lot of parties. where I'll normally around the world do at least 150 events around the world.
Wow.
So you can imagine, from a financial point of view, it's a bit different. But my career, of which I've been involved in for nearly 40 years, has fallen off a cliff. There is no, true events or true career now to follow in that sense. So I do a lot of streaming shows from my recording studio that I have here. I do make a lot of my own music. So in the lockdown, in the pandemic, I just made a whole bunch of amazing tracks, of which I've just been signed to a record label called BMG, which is a major record label. Which signs Kylie Minogue, no less, as well on that label. So I'm a label mate to her on BMG, which is fantastic. I like the idea of that. But the thing is about this signing with BMG, I signed to BMG in 1991 with a record that I had called I Want You Forever, which came out on a record label called Perfecto Records, and it was basically supported by BMG. So 30 years later, I go along my merry way. I make this live music, or electronic music, which I've created, and BMG have basically re-signed me again as I'm a new artist, but I'm not a new person. I'm older than I was when I started, but they found it intriguing that I had done this, and they felt that they could basically get behind my music and regenerate my career again just through making music. So I don't really have to DJ that much anymore, to be honest, but I do enjoy doing it, of course. And it, get back to the dance floor, the people, the festivals. But things are gonna change, or they are changing already. With social distancing, with contact tracing, and all that sort of stuff. Have you got a jab and all that? It's different now, so it's not something I'm going to race back into doing anyway. And I'm looking to kind of slow down into semi-retirement anyway, because for 40 years I've done nothing but trip the light fantastic. You know what I mean? I've been around the world about 100 times. I've had enough. So I've got no problem, being stuck here in Australia and being able to do drag racing and a certain amount of events that I like to do. I've actually got events coming up in Perth. I'm going to Perth tomorrow to do 3 events there. I'm doing two events in Sydney and 2 events in Adelaide. So I'm still here to do those events while I'm here.
Yep. Oh no, that's excellent. No, it's good news.
Yeah. And you've got more time to go drag racing now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is now is that being at the Jambo is probably my last event this year. I would like to do more if I could, but I'm looking to leave in January, January the 1st or 2nd to go back overseas, and probably won't get back until October into November. So I'll be able to do whatever's going to happen, 400 Thunder or anything that's happening after that, but also get back into my Pro Mod. Because that's the car that I basically stepped up to from the Capri, which I was having a really good time until one shoot came out and I hit the wall at 180 miles an hour. So that's got a bit of a bruised wing at the moment. It's in with Joe at the moment at ProFab, getting everything done. It's got a bit of chassis damage, bit of wheel damage and all sorts of things under that left side. Because as I was in the right hand lane going down, I basically went across the tracks at roughly about 250 miles an hour, pulled the chutes, only one came out, and I'm like, this is going to be interesting. So it's kind of like, do I take the red pill, go straight into the sand, or take the blue pill and see if I can try and make it? So I took the blue pill to see if I can try to make it. And I just realized that the car doesn't drift very well at that speed. So I went straight on the concrete, rode the concrete underneath the car, came down. Lucky enough, everything was fine. The chassis worked, done its thing and everything. But the Pro Mod that I have is so beautiful. I was more gutted that I smacked it up, to be honest. But it wasn't any fault of mine. In the end of the day, it's one of those things. They always call it, well, that's drag racing. If someone else says that to me, I want to throttle them. Oh, well, that's drag racing. No, it's not drag racing. It's a mechanical issue, it's like I wasn't racing when I was doing it. I was just doing a pass. But yeah, so when it happened, I really wanted to. If we could have repaired that car that night, I would have gone back down and done exactly the same thing. It didn't bother me that I had done it, but it bothered me that it's one of those things. But I think it's almost like a rite of passage that you have to have some sort of crash. And then you know what it's like to go down at the deep end like that and have something like that happen to you. But I mean, no one wants that ever. I wouldn't wish that on anyone having parachute failure. So we try our best to pack the chutes right, try and put certain amount of talcum powder in it, not too much. They don't like that at the track. When you pull the chutes and all you see is poof of white powder, and they go, "Oh, that's where you put the." Oh no! That's where you put the bags. Oh no! How are we supposed to pay for this bloody drag race? No. Anyway, all jokes aside, we got told off because my guys were really conscious about my chutes not coming out on the Capri doing 200 miles an hour. So they kind of put a bit too much in. So when the Capri went down, and you just see this poof, and it went all over the track, and they were like, "You got to tell your boy something, boy. Less talcum powder, less talcum." Yeah.
Speaking of the Pro Mod, what made you want to progress from the Capri into that car, into the Mustang?
I've always really enjoyed factory extreme racing. I thought that was a really good class and on big tire. I actually did enter the Capri when it was on big tire to factory extreme. But my poor little thing at the time was running like 7.2, 7.1, and most of the factory extreme cars were running 6.8s and 6.7. I just couldn't run with them. So it was either do something about that with this car, put a big block in it or something like that, which I just don't think works very well, or buy a new car.
Yeah.
So I think the Pro Mod, and there was some Pro Mods coming into the field about 3 years ago of really amazing Pro Mod cars, and I thought that was the best way to go go and buy a Pro Mod from the States, which I bought, one of the fastest cars in Pro Mod at that particular time, which was driven by Jose Gonzalez.
Oh, I was trying to work out whose car it was, but there you go. Answered that question.
Yeah, and Jose Gonzalez, and he was a two-time NHRA winning Pro Mod at that particular time, and it still seemed to be one of the fastest cars ever to do quarter mile at I think it did a 5.4 at 274 miles an hour radius.
He had the world record in that car, didn't he, Jose? At one stage, he had the world. I'm pretty sure he had the world record for that.
Yeah, he did. My little greasy little hands. And then I smacked it up. I'm like, oh, geez.
So is it still the same drivetrain that's in it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we've done all the mechanics on everything, but since then, yeah, everything's the same. All the gearing, the diff,
twin turbo Hemi.
It's a twin 98s. Yeah, everything's the same. It's a 540 cube Hemi from Proline, and all we've done is kind of updated the electronics because it was using a race pack as well as big stuff. There was a lot going on there, and we've obviously the Fuel Tech 600, ST600, which we're using right now. So we've got to get rid of a few old electronic setup and just basically Fuel Tech all the way, which it has now. It just has got a lot of wiring in it, which needs to be done. So it's the thing about these cars now. I mean, I bought that car nearly 3 years ago. Unfortunately with the pandemic, I haven't been able to get it out for 1 year. So I've actually had it for 2 years, and I've just started to get up on the car and everything with its electronic package and everything. And now it's behind the game in electronics, because obviously things do develop really quickly and really fast. So I do have the ability to put an order in for a new car, of which I have done, and then hopefully I can keep up with the electronics, with the new Proline engines which are coming out at the moment, and all that sort of stuff. So in the next year or so, you'll see the new Carl Cox Pro Mod. So I'll move that one on, and then I'll get into actual my car. So I'll cut my teeth on the Eleanor for the moment, and maybe I might keep Eleanor and put radials on it, and then just smack the radial record with her. I don't know. They're going to hate me in the drag strip. In a couple of years' time, they're going to go, bloody Cox.
Look, I got to tell you, Carl, I already like you.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's been great, though. It has been really, really great to be able to have this time to do this. So I'm really pleased that, there's a lot of interest about what I do. I mean, a lot of people thought I was doing this for like a publicity stunt. Top international DJ has a go at racing, or, taking selfies on the start line and all these chicks and that. I'm like, it's not like that at all. All I'm doing is trying to cut lights, trying to do the, trying to do the right thing by fair racing and all that sort of stuff, which I've been doing, and I've been enjoying. I mean, I've lost more than I've won, but at least I have won one race, one round, which was the APSA in 2013, I think, when I won on a 7.3, I think it was, at 187 miles an hour. It was Hollywood, actually. It was like, I'm into the finals, I'm going up against this Tirana, which is running 8.1s or whatever, and I thought, well, I've been running, 7.2s and 7.3s. This should be all right. And I thought to myself, I've got to compose myself and try and do well, and try not to break the, try not to cherry the lights and everything. And it was Hollywood, so I went, they'll come out. I think it was like 1, 2, 60 foot. Went on the bars, nice big wheelie to the free play, came down, kept it in, and won. I'll tell you, I got to the other end and I was like, what has happened here? I came back the winner, and that's where people knew that I was, the real thing, not some fake, Instagram TJ racer.
Reading about your licensing and first passes in the Capri, anyone that's ever drag raced and understands that, you can tell that's genuine. That's someone that's passionate about it. I know what it was like the first time I got in a big tyre car and did some laps, and that kick in the guts that you get when you let go of the trans brake button. It's only someone that has been through it can really understand it. So
Yeah,
I appreciate where you're coming from there.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've always gone off the foot brake and done like 1.660 foots. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, 1.6, you know. When you're doing like 1.1 or 1.0, oh my God. It's like someone put a cricket bat and just go bang on the back of your head. You go, oh, shit, you know, and away you go. It's like, oh my God. Nothing prepared. You can't explain that, you know, at the end of the day. I remember going for my license, which was quite funny. And then they instruct you to do, you know, certain things. Like, you know, burnout, okay, you know, go back, okay, stage up, now do like, you know, 330 and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, I really want to know what this goes like down a quarter mile. So they said, okay, we want to do a half track car and all that. I said, yeah, no worries. Pow, all the way down. It's just like all the bloody parachutes and everything. And they turned back and went, what the bloody hell's that? I thought you said you wanted me to go all the way down. Sorry about that. Sorry, we'll pack the chutes and I'll be back down for my license. Then I did the half track. I went, no, okay. So that was my story of how I got my license. It was it was very funny.
I wanted, pardon the pun, I'm going to change gears a little bit here. Tell us, Carl, a little bit about Carl Cox Motorsport and how that got started.
Well, I wasn't really going to run a race team in any way, shape or form, you need a lot of money. You know, all depends what you're going into. I mean, if it's Formula One or MotoGP, forget about it. I'm no billionaire and I don't have any desire to put any money into any of that type of sport. It's just ridiculous. I really like grassroots racing. I really enjoy the fact that a lot of these guys and girls, you know, do it on a shoestring, weekend warriors, all that kind of stuff. So I've always been into sidecar racing. Back in the UK, I used to see these lunatics go around Brands Hatch, nearly falling out of a sidecar, trying to kick the wheel down and stuff like that. You're like, oh man, really? You know, and you know, you see them trying to, you know, they're going, you know, sliding back and forward and all this sort of stuff, and you see them all go down and do that. And I just thought that was courageous and just brave and daring. So sidecar racing for me was something that I had a lot of interest in. And being here in Australia and have friends of mine in New Zealand, they were like, oh, we need about 10 grand or something like, you know, to support our racing campaign in New Zealand. There was a team called Smith and Shorter Racing, number 18. And they were really good at it. You know, they would win most of their races without the help of me. But if they had a little bit of help from me, and then they could win all those races, which they did. And that's how it started. And then for a couple of years, I was putting my money into them, and they were winning all their races in New Zealand. And they had aspirations of racing at the Isle of Man TT. And Colin Buckley was one of the riders who's actually been around the Isle of Man TT. You need someone who knows where they're going around the Isle of Man TT, otherwise it doesn't go well. You know, there's bus stops and pubs and, you know, all sorts of things you can hit, which hurts very, very much. But the sidecar, they don't go as fast, but it's still as dangerous, I have to tell you. But they really wanted to do that, so I thought, wow, you know, have an entry into Isle of Man TT would be really cool for me for people to introduce myself into the world of motorsport. So that's how it started. And when we got our sidecar with Carl Cox Motorsport and everything on it, people were like, that can't be the DJ Carl Cox. And I'm like, yeah, that's me, you know, fresh from my beefer. in the rain, cold, sidewoods rain. I'm like, what am I doing here? Oh, man. You know, it's freezing. Oh, there were cups of tea and, you know, I was on the corner. Oh, it was a rite of passage, I have to tell you. But, you know, the entry of our guys, there were 45 sidecars. And for our first time being there, we came 11th place. And we came 11th place twice. So that was in 2 years. And then I changed to riders and drivers because they done what they wanted to do. And then I supported another team called Rees Racing, Tim Rees Racing, and number 77. And for 2 years, I supported him, and he got onto the top step, and he came second as well after 2 years. And then he went to Brands Hatch and won every single round of Brands Hatch and everything. And now he's recognized as a world international sidecar team as well, champions of the last 2 years, not through me, but through another company he's now with. So whatever I kind of put my hand to in the end to help others, that's what I've been doing with Carl Cox Motorsport. So with that, I've been supporting certain Ironman TT riders. One famous one, which is Michael Dunlop. Dunlop Dynasty, which was amazing because I kind of just met him by default. He normally doesn't talk to anyone, especially
couldn't get Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's very unapproachable. You know, at the end of the day, but the boy can ride. But he will basically talk to me and that sort of stuff because I found out that he actually in his downtime he rallies a Mark II Ford Escort. Which is fantastic, and I have a Mark II Ford Escort as well, in orange, and I don't rally that. I kind of take that around the streets and everything, but you know, as soon as we had a connection with the cars, and then that was us, and it's a really nice compliment to each other based on how I support him and how he races because of the support. And then I support Connor Cummins, Ironman TT racer, Davey Todd, Dave O'Johnson, another guy that I support for classic racing at Phillip Island here in Australia. I do the Island Classics nearly every year, which obviously haven't happened in the last couple of years. But Michael Neves, that he gets to ride from MCN, Motorcycle News in the UK as a test rider, but he's really good around the track. And Dave O. Johnson. So you know, when it comes to the bikes, it's pretty amazing how much I've expanded with my race team. And in New Zealand, I have two sidecar outfits and a road racer there as well called Toby Summers. So I was for the last 2 years supported V8 supercars, Cam Waters with the Mustang. So he nearly won Bathurst last year. Yeah. You know, I was on the edge of my seat. I go, come on, Cam, give Shane Gisbergen a touch up. Come on. Oh, it's raining.
Don't worry, Carl. We all would.
It wasn't just us saying that.
No. We all.
I'm like, I can't believe it. It goes on for so long, and that's how it ended. I'm like, that was like came second. A good effort though, man. It was a good effort.
Yeah.
But I think this year he's doing really well so far.
Yeah, tell us a bit about Cam Waters. You had him as well. You've looked after him for some time. Do you think? I mean, I look at Cam Waters as the quintessential reality TV show star because he won the Supercar Showdown, but after that he moved on and actually, you know, became successful after his reality TV show. Do you think that show that kind of grounded him? Do you think in some way?
I mean, to be honest, he's quite a grounded person for being so young. He's very astute in his way, and I think whatever he puts his hand to, he wants to be successful at. I mean, he's very frustrated at the moment because obviously Scott McLaughlin is not there anymore, and you would have thought that he would have gone straight to the top straight away, and he hasn't. You know,
but Penske's not either, is he?
Yeah, I mean. He was seen to be the one to watch out for, and he's still on the back foot. So, you know, he's had his moment. He won the last race, and you know when of course it was wet and everything. And the first race he had a bit of a touch up, but you know he's an amazing guy. Amazing. I think he's very calm. I mean, when I see those cars get battered and pushed around and that, I would lose. I just would. I'll just be on the radio, just losing my. I'll just be like. I can't be. Oh yeah, I got hit there. Don't worry. No, go. Yeah, don't worry, Cam. It's fine. Like, are you sure about that? All right. I don't think I'll be a very good V8 at all. But he just seems calm. Really, you know. And if he does seem upset, he doesn't seem upset. But he is. But he contains himself. So I think that's what it is. He's a very likable person, and I think a lot of people do like him, and I want to see him do well, of course.
Look, I must say that the Carl Cox Motorsport is a credit to you, and I think, you know, I congratulate you for that, taking on, you know, I guess you take on a bit of a mentorship role as well, like for a lot of these stars, and I think that's really important, especially in grassroots motorsport, because that's where, you know, everyone comes from a grassroots motorsport, and it's really important what you're doing. So I really need to thank you for that. When I saw that, when we did the research for this podcast, I was taken back by that, to be honest with you. I didn't know you did that. So it's a credit to you.
Thank you. There was the thing was that, you know, I can't be selfish and do all this myself, you know, but also I do like the idea of getting behind young riders, young drivers, girl or boy, you know, if they need a little bit of help, and if I can give them that little bit of help just to get them confident enough to feel that they've got someone behind them like me to get them, you know, a little bit further than they would normally get. And then that, for me, I feel good about that. You know, I do this thing called the Cup with a guy called Ken Dobson in New Zealand, in Auckland, and I've been supporting the Carl Cox Cup for 10 years now, and basically it's entry level grassroots racing championship of like 6 rounds of around 3 tracks in New Zealand, and you know you'll find your next, you know, young gun coming out of that round. There's about, I think, 45 or 50 entries of the Carl Cox Cup for these rounds, and it's amazing to see, you know, the camaraderie, how people kind of like enjoy themselves on a Sunday, you know, with their families and everything, to see them do well from a grassroots point of view, and they got something to go for, whether you had a bad lap or a good lap, or you got to the step or you didn't get to the step. There's little kind of like treats in some ways. If you for instance, if you came, say like you did the most overtakes in one race, you would get seen for that, and you would get rewarded for your bravery or your camaraderie or the way how you handled that. So just the top 3 don't just get prizes. You get prizes for all the little things as well, which I think adds some real good kudos to what we try and do to inspire young riders to get out there and to give it a go.
I was about to backpedal a bit here, actually, and say, I mean, it is great. I was doing some of the research myself, and I'd seen your drag racing career, and I'd actually been following that for a while. And again, you mentioned yourself, people at first were like, is that the same Carl? I was one of those people. I remember seeing you years ago running the Capri and going, is that Carl Cox? And you jumped out of the car, and I'm like, that's Carl Cox. And I messaged a couple of mates of mine in the UK, and I'm like, Carl Cox is on my TV driving a drag car. They're like, yeah, he does that now. And I'm thinking, he does. But I mean, it was great to see. And then I sort of did more homework and went, oh, awesome. And you know, you reside in Melbourne now. When you get the chance, what brought you to sunny Melbourne? And
Sunny Melbourne.
I'm being nice to all the listeners out there. We have some very good friends in Melbourne. So what's it like, sunny Melbourne, and what drew you to living in Melbourne or Victoria?
Yeah, you know what? So I mentioned earlier about my hit record that I had out at the time, called "I Want You Forever," which came out in 1991. So I was asked to come over to promote that record here in Australia, because it was on the radio, Triple J and Nova, on rotation for quite a while. So that gave me an opportunity to come to Australia from the UK and to promote that and to do a certain amount of events around it. And when I first came to Australia, I came to Sydney, and interesting King's Cross,
especially back then.
Yeah, I've got stories about King's Cross when I was over there a few years ago. We'll keep that off air. Probably not as good as yours, Carl, but we'll keep them off air for now.
What is going on here? You know? and I didn't meet any Australians. They're all Irish or Scottish or from New Zealand, you know. Where's the Australians? You know, it's just crazy. You know, all the clubs and bars were named after the same clubs and bars we have in the UK and everything. I was like shocked. Anyway, I had a couple of really good parties in Sydney, and then I came to Melbourne, and then went to Brisbane, Adelaide. I did the round sort of thing when I came in, but I just felt that Melbourne was somewhere where I could feel a little bit connected with, because it feels a little bit like UK, especially with the weather system, 4 seasons in like 3 minutes. It's like, what's going on here? Once it's sunny, you're like, it's windy, oh my god, and then it's raining, you think, oh my god, it's going to flood, and then they've got hailstones. I'm like, and then it's sunny again. I'm like, it's just great that it keeps on your toes, the weather system here in Melbourne. But I just found that the pace of life was a bit different here, and especially where I live in the peninsula with all the wineries and stuff like that. I ride my motorbikes and stuff around there and just really enjoy it. So I live in a place called Mornington, and I really love the peninsula down here. It gives me it grounds me in some ways because nobody knows who I am, and in fact, I don't even care, which is brilliant. I like the idea of that. I can go to Safeways or Caltex or whatever. No one knows who I am. But in saying that, they do know who I am because there's not many black people who have been around in a blue Mustang. In fact, before that, do you know what my first car was when I came here? I went to the dealership and bought myself a Club Sport Commodore, and in a 4-door, V8, which just spun the tires, and when you just looked at the throttle, I was like, "That's what I'm talking about." So I was like fat arming down the Mornington High Street. I was like, "Yeah, this is." So but I did get rid of that, and I bought a 2005 Monaro. So the first generation of the new Monaros, and that's what I bought. So there wasn't many people with that car, so people knew. If you see that car, it was me. But that kind of stuff. So people always saying, "Oh, Hugh Jackman lives around here somewhere." You can see him, and then they heard, "Oh yeah, Carl Cox lives around here somewhere." It's kind of like this enigma, apparently. Living in the it's true. I saw him. That kind of thing.
He's over there, quick.
There he is. Chase him, and so I really enjoyed Melbourne. I tried everywhere, and Melbourne seems to fit my needs in the sense of lifestyle. So I'm very, very happy to be here. Not to bag anywhere, because people know that I went to Sydney first, and they were upset that I moved to Melbourne. They really were upset.
I mean, you talked a little bit earlier, you're heading back to the UK next year. Tell us a bit, you're working on something called the London Motor Show. Are you able to elaborate a little bit more on that? Yeah, so I've always enjoyed, going to the expos of the London Motor Show. I like the new modern cars as well as the old cars, of course. And I used to go to them religiously, but a friend of mine knew that I had the Colcos Motorsport. What they wanted with the London Motor Show was to kind of revamp it, get it into the now generation, have drag racing be a part of what people should be interested in as well, whether it's drag bikes or cars, sidecars, or that sort of stuff, and who I am as a personality. At the end of the day, bringing all these people together where they wouldn't normally have that kind of, demographic of people who are into the music and the car scene. So I was able to work with the organisers of the London Motor Show for its next step of where it ends up in the future. Unfortunately, we were supposed to do our first collaboration show in July the 17th, but because of the pandemic, it's not going to happen, and we can't really do a virtual show. But now that I'm going over there, I'm actually going to be doing, hopefully we're going to try to pull off a Carl Cox Motorsport day or evening with music, the cars, bringing people together, talking about the industry, all that sort of stuff. So it's like a media day. So that's the kind of what we're going to kind of do, because you can still social distance and all that sort of stuff. So won't have people moving around, and we'll have a stage where we can have certain guests turn up and tell their stories about what they do and how they do it, like Formula One racers and that kind of stuff. We're really working on that at the moment as a concept. So it's actually gone into my favor because it's London Motor Show, but I'm going to be hosting the whole event. So,
wow.
So people will then start to see that I'm very serious in what I'm trying to achieve with what I enjoy, which is the motorsports and motoring industry as a whole. So it's just quite mad for me of what's happened here, because I think what might happen now is that the motor industry is going to supersede my music industry. So this is a crazy position to be in at the moment.
Question without notice: did you ever think that was going to happen?
No, never, not in a million years, because I never had aspirations for it.
Yeah.
I never really had aspirations for being someone said, "Do you want to be a Formula One racer?" Or do you want to DJ for the rest of your life? And if I had the opportunity, I still would say DJing, because I'm too big to get in a Formula One car. So it's not going to happen.
That's a credit to you, Carl. Seriously, like, you've been able to take two passions of yours and become well known in two separate fields. So I think that's incredible. I really do.
Well, I think I want to try and have the title of the world's fastest DJ.
I'd say you've already got it.
I think you're close.
I nailed that one.
I think I've got that one. I can't see another DJ being any quicker than me. If there is, then bring it. I want to know. I want to know who that is.
Hey, tonight, Carl, you've talked a bit about a number of cars you've had. Tell us some of the cars that are in your collection, some that we might not know about.
I've got some really nice American muscle cars, actually. I've got a 1964 all-original Corvette Stingray, 4-speed, 327. It's absolutely lovely. But you know what annoys me about this car is that, people go, "Oh, it's beautiful. It's in white. You got side winder pipes on it, everything, and I love the wheels and everything." And they go, "Oh, it's a 64." It's like, and because the 63,
It's not a 63.
It's not a 63. I'm like, and I said, "Do you have a 64?" Bloody, well, shut up then. The car people suck sometimes. They really do.
They do.
Oh, it's not a 63. It's like, anyway, that's another story. But I have a beautiful 1968 Dodge Charger in a kind of like a navy-ish light blue. I've changed the wheel and tire. They're still to make the 500s, but they're bespoke to get a bit more wheel and tire underneath the guards and to drop the back down a little bit, because normally they stick up quite high. It just looks fat. It's amazing, that car. And it was a restoration, which I was lucky enough to buy while it was in Dandy Engines, getting a carburetor tune up. And the owner at the time, he's just like, he had enough of the car. He just said, "Look, it has never run right. I just want to get rid of it." And I heard about it, and I just bought it like that.
Wow.
Whatever he said, I said, "I bought it because there's no way I'll be able to find this car at the money I paid for it right now."
Yeah.
And it's true. And here's another story, right? So I've fixed this car. The roof liner was a bit shoddy. The air conditioning compressor went. All the heat controls didn't work properly. A few things. Not that, just stupid little things he could have fixed, and it would have been fine. But I went to a car show last week, and I took that car out and to a place in Clayton, a place called the Bosch Centre. And I rolled my car in around about 8:30. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, General Lee," but it's not the General Lee because it's a 68, not a 69. You can hear the whispers. You know what I mean? You can hear them all. I'll cruise around, and I had these two guys really looking at me. I was like, looking in there. I was like, so I parked it up and the Verge and everything, and it came over, and I've had this car for I think 5 years at least, and I never saw the owner. I just bought it from Frank. Frank said, "Here's the money. Here's the keys, and there's your car. That's it." And it was the owner's car. It was a guy who had it originally before me, and he was looking at the car going, "His mate, that's not my car, is it?" It's like, "Oh, it is." He's like, "No way, it can't be." He's like, I said, "No, have a look." So he came over, and he looked at me and went, "Oh, I wish I never sold it now." What I'm talking about, made it look much better than when he had it. But anyway, that was that story. But I've got a beautiful 1965 Pontiac GTO, and all original size wheel tire, everything. It's like you bought it from the dealership when it came out. It's absolutely gorgeous piece of work. That car starts on a button. I drove it down to Brights. There's a cruise night that they have, a weekend that they have down there, and I took it down there, drove it back. No issues, no dramas. Lovely, really lovely car, that one. One of my favorite cars, actually, that was 1971, the Dodge Challenger in Plum Crazy. Got some center lines on it, got it lowered and everything else. I feel like a bit of a badass in that car, I have to tell you. But it's not the big the big motor in it is a 383 Magnum. So
Okay.
I like the idea of Magnum. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's Magnum. You know what I mean? Yeah, but that's a really nice car. Again, I mean, I've got so many beautiful cars. The 1956 Chevy Nomad. And here's another story about me obtaining this car. I've been looking for a Chevy Nomad for years and years. There's not that many of them. Beautiful station wagon. This was a frame-off restoration of which I picked up in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I didn't set out to find this car. It found me at the end of the day. I was in Vegas. I was playing there. And one afternoon, I was kind of got online and I was looking for like a t-shirt. I thought I'll get a nice Nomad 1956 t-shirt. So I found a t-shirt, double XL, bang, 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 you know, in black and white, whatever. And then it says, oh, also the buyer might want to buy this car. So it pointed down to the bottom and you see a picture and it was this blue and white 1955 Chevy Nomad. I thought, well, if I can't get the 56, I'll get the 55 and then flip it for a 56 one day. At least I've got one. So I went in, I put a bid on it. It didn't say how much it was going for. So I thought, right, 32 grand. You know, Chevy Nomad, you know, brand new, not brand new. It was a beautiful, unmolested, as they say, original car. So if I had it, if I wanted to get it into the hood, then I would have changed everything. But it was too nice to do that. So I just thought I'd get it. Anyway, so I'm thinking, okay, well, if someone comes in at 33 or 34, and then I'll outbid them and eventually I'll get it at a price I wanted to pay for it. But then he said, if you like this car, I think the buyer might also like to have this car. And it was a 56 Chevy Nomad in cool yellow and vanilla white. American racing wheels. It was a frame-off restoration, beautiful car. A little bit more money than the one I was going to buy, but that's the car, right? So I rang the owner. I rang him up and I said, listen, you know, I want to buy your car. How much was it? And he said, yeah, okay. If you give me what I want, I said, it's yours. I said, no problem, bang. I paid him for that car, but I've still got this other car and it's still going on a bid. So I just thought, right, I'm not going to go in anymore. I'll just leave it there. Hopefully someone will come in and buy it off me. Yeah. So the bidding stopped at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So 3:30, and I got this other car, done a deal on that. I got the t-shirt, no worries. But I really don't want 2 Nomads. Just want one. One is enough. So someone's got to outbid me because this is quite low. 32 grand is low for one of these cars. So it went on 3:15, 4:45, and it went to 4:10, 5:45, and still no one outbidding me. I'm like, have I bought another car? I'm like, no, I can't. Really, this is impossible. And literally, I think 30 seconds before it was the top of the hour, 4 o'clock, I got super sniped. Someone came in and bought it, and it said, I'm really sorry, you've lost your bid on your car. I'm like, I lost a bid and look at yes. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. I was doing the happy dance. I've never been so happy to lose a bid on anything in my life. I was like, the car is yours. Yippee! I'm free of this. It was one of the most stressful moments of my whole life. Wait, I'm like, I was shaking the computer going, come on, wake up, people. Buy it off me. I don't want this car. Oh, my God. So I ended up with this car. And then anyway, so I bought it off this guy. And everyone says, never buy a car off the internet because you never know what you're going to get, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I actually haven't seen the car. I really don't know what it's going to be like. So I panicked all the time. It got put onto the boat. It came over eventually. And it turned up at my house. And it's an absolute peach. So I was really, when that car rolls out there, it's just a beautiful chrome work and everything that goes with it. It's a lovely car. So it's definitely one of my favorite cars, that one. But one of the cars which I first bought was a Plymouth Roadrunner in black. So it's big center lines on it and everything. And so it had a 383 in it. So we yanked that out and we put a 572 Hemi in it.
As you do. You got to have at least one Hemi.
Yeah. That car is such a brute. It's not funny. And it's fair play to my guys who fitted the engine because there really is no room in there whatsoever once a Hemi goes in there. One of my luxuries was like the power steering on that car, and we had to take that away because room. Where the headers go, we had to take that away. So now I'm like, So when I'm parking up at a show, I'm like, it's reverse, forward, backwards. I'm like, oh my God, you can have all this power, but my word, you really got to take something away for it. It doesn't work very well. But I've run 10 fours or 10 threes in that car at 132 mile an hour. So it goes all right.
It goes.
Yeah. It goes. And it was a crate motor, so we don't really know what's in it or anything, but it's held up. It's done all right. And when it goes on the stiff, you do a bit of a wheel stand, woo, and away it goes a couple of gears, and it goes for gold. So I really enjoy that car. The black Plymouth Roadrunner is all me, I have to say. At the end of the day, so that's a few cars that I have.
That is an awesome collection. It's a bit of a Chrysler Dodge theme I'm picking up there, but not just the Fords.
Well, I do have 5 Mustangs. I do have two Mark 1 Cortina Lotuses. I've got 1 Mark 1 Escort Mexico, 2 RS 2000 Escorts, and I do have a 351 350 GT race Mustang, which is a Shelby, which is in New Zealand. I do historic racing with that car. So there's a balance between old Fords and
they share the same stud pattern on the wheels. So, they're kind of the same.
Well, if they don't, you just get a hammer. And then they go, fix. So just get a nut on. Yep, it's all good. Yeah.
Hey, look, Carl, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. We really enjoyed it. But before we finish, tell us, where can we find you? carlcoxmotorsport.com, carlcox.com, and on Facebook as well, Carl Cox 247.
That's right, 24/7. That's the official page that you can catch me on. And it gives you all the information on everything that I'm doing with DJing, and of course my motorsports and my own inimitable drag racing efforts.
Awesome. One other thing, is there anyone you'd like to thank? I know Frank was kind of, Todd reached out to Frank to organise this interview, but is there anyone you'd like to thank there in your motorsport regime and even in your DJing regime?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. How long we got? About another hour.
we've got plenty of time.
Frankie from Danny Engines and Joe Cauchi and his son Jonathan as well. I mean, they did so well with their Mustang. I sponsored their Mustang actually for his racing campaign, and he ran a 585 at 252 miles an hour on the weekend on radials. I think that puts it probably the fastest pro radial car in the country, if not bloody well.
By a mile, I'd say.
Yeah. To watch it was to behold. I mean, I never want to drive that car. No way. I'll see him driving. Oh, bloody hell! You're like, wow. But he really took it to the Pro Mods this weekend, which is amazing. So those guys are just fantastic, and I feel very proud and honored to be with them. And of course, Pro Trans and Fuel Tech Australia. And it's just so many people that I've kind of met along the way. It's just been awesome, and there's everyone all over the world and that are into the music and been to the festivals. I'll be coming back soon to hopefully to basically start my campaign and DJing again on a worldwide basis. And I haven't seen my sisters, because my sisters are actually going to be watching and listen to the show at some point. So Pamela, Andrea, and my niece Rihanna. So I hope to get to see you guys very soon.
Oh, shout out to them as well.
Yeah. And you're coming to Perth, you said?
I am, yeah. So not this weekend, next weekend. I will be playing two events in Perth. One at the Metro and another one somewhere else. You got to find it online if you need to know exactly where it is. Is
that the Metro in the city? Is it Metro in Freo? Metro in the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Metro in the city.
Well,
it's a good venue. I really enjoy that venue. Last time I played there, it's been awesome. So yeah, I'll be playing there.
Oh, no, we really appreciate that, Carl. And if you're anyone that's listening, as I said, head to carlcoxmotorsport.com. That's a really great website, by the way, I must add. That's really well done. And lots of information there. Or carlcox.com or Facebook, Carl Cox 24/7.
Yep, that's the one.
Well, Carl, look, really appreciate it from myself, Todd, and Simon. We've had I've really enjoyed tonight. I've had a great laugh, and you're a credit to grassroots motorsport, people in Australia, but not just in Australia, but around the world as well. And you know what, drag racing, I must say, drag racing is much better off having someone like yourself in it, because Simon and myself in particular are big drag racing fans.
Yeah.
And we're always, collectively we're trying to bring it to the next level. Having someone like you involved in the sport, we're much better off for it. So
it would be great if more people got to experience it, because, when you're there at a Pro Mod or Door Slam or Nitro meeting, there's nothing like being there in the crowd and feeling, nothing can describe what a fuel car feels like to see go down the track. And I know that where we've brought people from the corporate world to the track, they've been, why is this such a secret? Why this should be on TV? Everyone should know about this. But unfortunately, corporate Australia, I don't think they're ready for us.
Not quite.
No, it's a bit strange, isn't it? I mean, I think the next 400 Thunder, I think, is it KO TV or something like that?
Yeah, correct.
And I think maybe 7 TV also is going to start showing some 400 Thunder and Pro Mod and everything else racing. So hopefully to get, we can see more action, more things to come. I mean, the Jamboree was brilliant this week. I thought it was really well attended. I think it had a great demographic of people. If I hear another rotary car, I'm going to kill somebody.
Which is unusual considering you're a DJ, because all the DJs we know own rotaries.
Yeah.
I'm like, shut up. It runs to 6 or something. I'm like, holy, how is this voodoo working? So it's like the whole weekend was just nuts at Jamboree. But yeah, we saw some awesome cars go down, and PB's been broken like it was Christmas. Brilliant, and everyone really enjoyed it. A bit of music going on there as well. I might actually do some music for them the next Jamboree if it works out, and that would be really awesome if I can fuse those two things together and just bring a little bit more to it.
They used to have.
Yeah, they did have.
They used to have a DJ, and they used to have a sound off as well, and they used to have a bikini, which is probably frowned upon these days, but
not by me.
There goes our PC.
I'll work on it.
Yeah.
We need to get a drag strip at Ibiza, I think.
I know that would be something else.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hey, Carl, look, as I said, really appreciate your time coming on the podcast. It's great to have you here. And, we'll try and catch up with you when you're in Perth. If not, we'll try and catch up with you when you're back in the UK as well. It'll be good to catch up with you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the London Motor Show, if we can pull this off, I'll definitely let you guys know. But then if it's happening, it's going to happen for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent.
No, definitely.
All right.
Okay, Carl, thanks for joining us on the Talk and Power podcast. It was great to have you here.
Thanks, guys, and it's been a pleasure. I've had a good crack myself today.
Thanks for that.
All right, guys. Bye for now.
Take care.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.